Welcome to Chicago Live on this Monday. It's hard to believe we are we are now halfway through August. We've got a lot coming up for the show today, including a great first hour where we will really be diving into what is going on in Northwest Indiana in terms of cleaning up after the storm. Our first guest will be joining us from Northwest Indiana, Indiana State Police, Sergeant Glenn Fifield, to talk a little bit more about the situation on the ground, because as of today, there are still more than 100,000 NIPSCO customers in the dark. They are waiting for the lights to come back on, and tomorrow marks 1 week that they have been without power. It is, of course, a really lengthy cleanup process for all of those who have been impacted by the storms. They've got to wait on insurance adjusters to come out and assess the damage, in some cases before they can do much cleaning up at all. We want to bring in our first guest, Sergeant Glenn Fifield. Thank you so much for joining us on this Monday. How are you doing today?
Hi, Casey. I'm doing real well. How about yourself?
Great. Thank you for being here. Tell us a little bit, the situation on the ground. Almost 1 week since those storms swept through the area, causing such devastation, particularly in Northwest Indiana. How have things been unfolding since we talked last?
It's been a definite struggle, a lot of recovery going on. Chainsaws are definitely getting a workout. I know you can't find a chainsaw for sale anywhere around here, or a generator. It's been a lot of neighbors helping out, and it's ongoing. And it's going to continue here for probably the next couple of weeks as everybody is trying to fix up their property, their homes, and recover from this damage.
Yeah, and it really does seem to be the case this summer that once people start to clean up and they get their feet back under them, another storm hits. We, of course, hope that will not be the case. We were talking to our chief meteorologist, Emily Walls, last week, who says that things are hopefully starting to settle down, and we'll bring her on later today. But I'm sure you have seen countless cases where just as people are repairing from the last storm, they get hit again.
Yeah, and that's the big fear right now. Every time you see the storm clouds or the radar, you see red on the radar, it's like, oh my gosh, what is going to happen now? Is this going to be another one? And we've been hit back to back to back. It seems like every month we've had something. It started actually, it was winter. It wasn't even spring, and it started down in Newton County when they got hit with that tornado down there. And then it just continued this summer and up until last week. So it's been one after another, and Maryville's been hit very hard. The city of Gary's been hit very hard. Portage, I mean, I can go on and on. Everywhere here in Northwest Indiana has been hit and affected. And so every time you see that radar, you see the red over in Illinois, and you see it coming from the west as it crosses that state line. It makes you really start to wonder, how bad is this going to be?
Yeah, not something anyone wants to see, especially after what we've been dealing with on the weather front. Talk a little bit about the calls that you receive at Indiana State Police during extreme weather events like that. When we talked to you last week, you were out helping to block part of the road that had downed live wires. Talk a little bit about your response and the response of your team in weather events like what we saw last Tuesday.
Yeah, so when we have an event like that, the main thing is get the roadway open as quickly as possible, because we don't want traffic stranded and have more people run into more complications, not being able to get to where they're going. So our number one priority, as well as the Indiana Department of Transportation, is getting the road open and clear of debris as quickly as possible. So we go into basically a response mode, and that's going from, we clear the interstate from one end to the other, checking on anybody that's stranded, broke down, and render whatever assistance we can at the time. And then it goes from that to assisting other agencies or off the main interstates and getting those clear. So we really turn into a response agency when something like this hits. When you know what's coming, you try to warn people ahead of time not to travel, get on the roads. One of the big risks we have here on I-65 and I-80-94, in particular 65, with it being a north-south highway, is those crosswinds as they come from the west and semis blowing over. And that happened this last storm. We had a couple of semis that were blown over, and the truck drivers actually did the right thing and pulled over, but it didn't matter because they just didn't stay upright. But
right.
it can cause a lot of issues. And when those power lines go down, we can't approach them. No one should ever approach a power line. Always assume that it's live, and that just creates even more headache.
How challenging does it make it for your troopers who might not have power in their own homes and are still getting that uniform on and heading out to help other people in the community?
Yeah, my lieutenant who's in the next room right here, he still doesn't have power. So we can relate to that. It's not like it doesn't affect us. We suffer the same exact issues. We've got a couple of troopers that had trees down on their houses. They couldn't get in, couldn't get out of their houses. One trooper, their wife was trapped in the house and couldn't get out. So it affects us, and we understand where the folks are coming from when we are suffering as troopers as well. And we're people. We have houses, we have homes, we have trees in our yard as well. So we can definitely relate. We've got a lot of troopers that have been out. I got a text the other day from one of our troops that was out with his son going helping the neighbors with their chainsaw and helping clean it up. So we take a lot of pride in that. You hear all the time that why you became a police officer is to help people. This is a perfect circumstance, and it's a perfect case where that is very true. Helping our community recover is our number one priority right now.
Absolutely. And you mentioned earlier in our interview here today, that people really step up to help one another, not just law enforcement members, but also neighbors, maybe who have never met each other, strangers. If a tree's down and they pitch in. I was out in Munster last week, and the folks on that block that I was on said that the football team, the Munster High School football team, stopped by to help pitch in. Talk a little bit about what you see in terms of a resilient community in situations like this.
We really are a resilient community here in Northwest Indiana. I've done a couple of hashtags, Northwest Indiana Strong, NWI Strong, and it's really true. As you said, the football team coming out and helping, I can attest the tornado that hit in Newton County, the Kankakee Valley KV High School, which is over here in Jasper County, they sent their football team and their kids over to Newton County to help out. And it's just one of those things that good humans do, people should do, is help one another. And it's times like these when, if you have the ability and the capability and the tools to help your neighbor, why wouldn't you want to? And it just really is, it's refreshing to see in this day and age a community come together and help each other. Not only your neighbors, but neighboring counties. For a perfect example is Lake County. 95% didn't have power, so the residents had to go to neighboring counties. Porter County was struggling with power, so they went to LaPorte County, they went to Jasper County, Newton County for fuel, and there were lines down in those other neighboring counties at gas stations, at grocery stores, because they had to help out. And those other counties and churches and civic what are we going to call them? But civic organizations have come together and donated thousands and thousands of dollars of resources to these affected communities. So they're going to get through this. It's going to take time, but this community is strong, and they will recover, and they'll be back at it not too long.
Certainly. You just mentioned fuel. You had posted on X last week that if anyone is heading to Northwest Indiana over the next several days to gas up before entering Lake and Porter counties, where does that stand right now? Are you still seeing really long gas lines?
Yeah, I was driving home the day of that storm, and I don't know why I just drove by a gas station, and I got to thinking, man, where are people going to get fuel with no power? So I tweeted that out, not knowing it was going to be so predictive of, or foretelling what was going to happen. And right now, I think we're doing well. I think the last I looked, 100,000 people in Lake County didn't have power. I'm actually looking right now, and let's see here, Lake County, I still got quite a bit of them. But I have not heard of any fuel shortages. The gas stations are all able to get fuel. The roads are back open, so that has calmed down quite a bit. And I've fortunately not heard of any price gouging either. So that's also something that can happen in times like these. But right now, everything I've seen, fuel stations are good. and that's no longer an issue. The first couple of days, first couple of hours, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday was definitely a problem. You saw the long lines. I saw them, from the helicopters and the drone footage of the lines that were in Lake County, the couple stations that had power. People were desperate. They had to keep those generators running, so it definitely was an issue.
Yeah, even leaving Munster for myself and our crew last week, we went into a gas station and there were cones and someone was directing traffic and we thought, what is happening here? Only to realize we were getting in line. We ended up hitting the road. We did gas up elsewhere just down the street because, the line was, I would have guessed, at least a 30-minute wait, but I'm glad to hear things are getting smoother in that regard. I want to talk a little bit now, changing topics, but flock cameras have been really something that's been talked about a lot in the news lately. There is some controversy surrounding flock cameras. We want to get your take, Sergeant Fifield, on what you have seen with these license plate reader technology cameras and how they are utilized by Indiana State Police.
Yeah, we use them in our investigations quite often. In the last 2 years, we've had 11 interstate shootings that our detectives have been requested to work. And of those 11, 8 of those have been solved with extremely diligent work by our detectives. But each one of those were directly solved with the use of license plate reading cameras. And I know you mentioned Flock, but there's also other companies out there, and Flock is the name or the company that takes a lot of the heat right now. But we use them strictly for that purpose of solving these interstate shootings, and it's been very successful. We've had individuals prosecuted, and of the 8 of 11, one of the 3 that's not solved, one, the witness wouldn't cooperate. The other one, there was just not enough evidence to go by to get the case solved. And the third one, we're waiting for charges to be filed. So we've had a really high success rate, and our detectives believe that those 8 would not have been solved had it not been for the use of LPR technology. So we use them. There are strict guidelines in place for our agency as well as all the agencies here in Northwest Indiana that they have to abide by. We don't run license plates, for random reasons, for no reason at all. There's strict guidelines. We have to have case a number attached to anything like that. And there's safeguards in place. We have policies and procedures that we follow. And I've not heard of any state trooper here in Indiana that has had an issue with running license plates improperly. And we audit ourselves, and as well as Flock and Vigilant. And I think we do a pretty good job of that.
Right, which seems to be the concern for a lot of people is the potential privacy issues around flock cameras. But if, as you mentioned, there are guidelines in place, it seems that as long as those are being adhered to, it can be a great tool to solve crimes.
It is. And just last week, I think it was last week or the week and a half ago, we found a missing person from Chicago here in Indiana that had been driving around all night long. And through the use of that technology, we were able to locate that individual and reunite them with their family. So it's not only for solving crimes, it's for, finding people. And
wow.
I think we do a lot of, it's the hot button issue right now. And I completely understand where folks are coming from. But at the same time, I think there's a lot of instances where there's some camera stuff that are going on, like there's facial recognition that I know casinos use. I know people go into different places, and there's all kinds of camera stuff out there, not only with these license plate readers, that I think right now license plate readers are the hot topic. And I understand where people would be concerned, and I would also be concerned, and rightly so. But I think with the protections that are in place when they're followed, it's very effective. And I did a little research, and I think that last year there were 50 officers nationwide or something in that area that got in trouble for misusing the technology, and they were held accountable, as they should be. And several of them were prosecuted and fired. But when you break it down, it's like 0.00066% of law enforcement officers in the United States, which is a crazy low number that have abused it. So when you look at it that way, You know, when people are held accountable, and we're held to a higher standard as we should be. And, you know, if someone uses it improperly, they are dealt with accordingly.
Thank you so much for being with us today. And it is an interesting point that you mentioned, not just using the technology to solve crimes, but also to look for missing people or older adults who might have wandered, might have taken off in their vehicles. You know, we often see those missing endangered alerts on the expressway with the license plate number. So, yeah, very interesting to also be able to use the technology for those reasons as well.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Sergeant Fifield, and we look forward to having you on monthly here on Chicago Live. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you. Take care.
You as well. Talk to you soon. All right, stay with us here on Chicago Live. We will be right back after this break. The prosecution has rested in the Lindsay Clancy murder trial. The defense set to call witnesses. We will be chatting with the host of the Prosecutors Podcast when we come back. Welcome back to Chicago Live. The prosecution has rested in the trial of Lindsay Clancy. She is accused of strangling her 3 young children back in 2023. The trial has been underway for several weeks now, and the defense is getting ready to begin calling witnesses. We want to introduce our next guest, former DOJ prosecutor and current host of the Prosecutors Podcast, Alice LaCour. Alice, thank you for being here with us to break this all down.
Thanks so much for having me.
So paint the picture for our viewers who maybe have been following a little bit of the trial, but don't have a great clear picture of it. Walk us through just what we have seen over the last several weeks. We know that Lindsay Clancy's attorney is arguing that she was suffering from postpartum psychosis at the time of the murders of her 3 young children. Talk to us a little bit about what we have seen in the courtroom so far.
So this is a devastating case where a mother has admitted, it's undisputed, that she strangled her 3 young children to death. They were under the ages of 5. And she claims that she was under postpartum psychosis and therefore could not appreciate the criminality of her actions and therefore shouldn't be criminally liable, despite admitting that she was the one who ended her children's lives. The prosecution have been presenting their case for 3 weeks. They've brought experts on, they've brought different sort of forensics analysis, because their narrative, of course, is that this was calculated, this was planned, and she knew exactly the wrongfulness of what she was doing. No matter what sort of postpartum diagnosis she may have had, she still knew what she was doing here. And so today we saw the prosecution call their last witness and then rest, which means now it's the defense's case to show that Lindsay Clancy was in fact under some sort of psychosis that prevented any sort of criminal liability in this triple murder case.
Alice, what types of challenges is the defense going to have when they are trying to prove their case, to prove that she was suffering from postpartum psychosis?
So in order to qualify for this insanity defense, because Lindsay Clancy herself has said that she killed her children, they have to show that not only was Lindsay Clancy under some sort of mental defect, that's the way the law describes it. So in this case, psychosis. But in addition to that psychosis, it has to be one of two things. First, that she either did not understand the criminality of what she did, so she simply didn't know it was wrong to kill her children. Or even if she knew it was wrong, she couldn't control her actions to not kill her kids. Those are pretty high bars, and they're going to have to show and convince the jury that a mother who otherwise seemingly loved her children was under the hold of psychosis and could not be held criminally liable here.
We know that over the last couple of weeks, I believe there have been some journal entries of Lindsay's that have been read aloud in the courtroom. How much weight does something like a journal entry have in a murder trial?
You know, this is all admissible evidence, and I think it's very powerful for the jury because we don't know yet if Lindsay Clancy will take the stand. Of course, we know the Constitution gives you the right to plead the fifth. She doesn't have to take the stand in her own defense. And so her words in her journal at the time, I think they're going to resonate very deeply with the jury. They show insights into how she's thinking about what it's like to be a parent, the struggles she's having with parenting each of her children, how difficult it is, and also the struggles she's having with her mental health, her practitioners, and also the different medications that she's being prescribed. And so while we can't get inside of her head, her notes at the time really help us get a view into what she was thinking.
Yes, and you mentioned what I was going to ask you next is, do you think she will take the stand? Of course, as you just mentioned, she is not required to do so. We have heard some sobs from her, seen some emotion coming from her during this trial so far. Is that something the jury might be weighing, is seeing some tears coming from her as she's watching? But then also, do you think she will take the stand, and would it benefit her?
So you're completely right. She has been sobbing throughout this trial. I think anyone watching would be sobbing. It is horrific when you hear what these children suffered before they died. And in fact, last week, the judge had to stop court because Lindsay was sobbing so loudly and had to give her time to compose herself. You know, even if you tell the jury not to take that into account, we're all human. Those jurors, of course, will take into account that the person they're having to judge is sobbing right there. They may not know why she's sobbing, but any human being will have their heartstrings tugged. With that said, when I was a prosecutor, we always said, basically across the board, no defendant is going to benefit from testifying against themselves. And that's because you just don't know how the questions will come. You'll be subject to cross-examination, which the purpose of is to poke holes in your story, to make you look bad in layman's terms. And so there's risk when you take the stand. I think in this case, because the defense is relying on the fact that she was under psychosis at the time, what they're asserting is that she's a different person today than she was when she killed her kids. So in my opinion, I don't think it would actually help her case if she took the stand. I think it can only hurt her case because the second she starts talking, those jurors are going to start judging. Is this someone who could have been in psychosis at the time? But the defense's whole theory is she's different today than she was in the moments in which she committed these murders.
And we see here that Paula Musgrove, Lindsay's mom, is on the stand right now. Was this the defense's first witness?
So she's one of the first witnesses, but not actually the first witness. They've also called her sister,
Okay.
and they've also called a close friend of hers. This is pretty much expected. They want to show that she was this loving mother who didn't have any of these issues, and this was completely unforeseeable. That's what you need as the defense, because you want the moment of the murders to be so out of character that nothing can explain it except some sort of snap of psychosis. So it's very expected that these close people to Lindsay are taking the stand in her defense.
I imagine it is going to be a difficult deliberation process for the jury. If I had to guess, I would think it would take hours to come to just an agreement between the jurors. What's your take?
This has been such an emotional trial that I hope, for the sake of the victims, for Lindsay Clancy, and for the entire Commonwealth, that the jury reaches a decision and does not reach a hung jury, which is to say that they can't reach a decision. But this is an incredibly sensitive case. Everyone, as you can tell, who's commented on this case brings their own experience. I don't know where the jury sits here. We always call the jury a black box. They're instructed and they're not allowed to speak to anyone or listen to any outside commentary on this case. And this case is going on for a very long time. So your guess is as good as mine as to what the jury's thinking now. I do hope, though, at the end of the defense's case, and then the prosecution will get a rebuttal, which I think they will put on, that they will be able to make some decision one way or the other, because I think the most unsatisfactory result here would be to have a hung jury and no decision, and we have to try this case again.
Absolutely. As you mentioned, it has been such a heartbreaking case, such an emotional case, that certainly dragging it out further again or having to repeat the case would, I'm sure, be exhausting for all of those involved. How long do you expect the trial to last? It's already been underway several weeks.
So initially, the parties have to give an estimate for how long they think this trial is going to go. They said 6 weeks, and so far on this timeline, that's probably likely, because what we expect to see is probably a week or two for the defense's case, because they have a burden here for their insanity defense. And then the prosecution will probably bring a rebuttal. They'll probably bring some experts to rebut the defense's case here. So I think we're looking at about another 3 weeks of trial.
Alice, thank you so much for joining us and providing us with all of your great insight. That was Alice LaCour, host of the Prosecutors Podcast and former DOJ prosecutor, giving us some insight on the Lindsay Clancy murder trial. Now, Lindsay Clancy, after the strangulation of her 3 young children, she did attempt to take her life. We do just want to mention again that if anyone at home is struggling, there is a helpline that you can contact. That number is 988. It is the national lifeline number, and it is available 24/7. There is help available. Again, that number is 988. Stay with us here on Chicago Live. We will be right back after the break. Welcome back to Chicago Live. We do want to turn our attention to some breaking news out of Glenpool, Oklahoma. That's just outside of Tulsa. Reports indicate that a lightning strike at a pipeline facility has forced a massive explosion. Just take a look at those flames and that black smoke. It has prompted evacuations and school shelters in place. We will bring you the latest on this as soon as we learn it. But again, this is at a Glenpool pipeline facility. It is prompting evacuations. This is in Oklahoma, Glenpool, Oklahoma. No word yet on any injuries or deaths, but we will continue to monitor this. All of this just unfolding over the last couple of hours here. We will bring you the latest on this as we hear it. But gosh, that's just a devastating scene to see those flames still going really strong, and that smoke, you can just see how thick it is, how dark it is as well. We'll come back out to this live image shortly here, but switching gears, we want to turn our attention back now to Northwest Indiana and the relief efforts there following last Tuesday's really just devastating storm. We want to bring in our next guest, Tim Lucas, who is the district manager of Lowe's. Hi, Tim.
How you doing?
Great. Thank you for joining us. Tell us a little bit about some of the relief efforts that you are helping residents with today.
Yeah, so first, our thoughts are with the communities that's been affected by this widespread devastation. Today, in the city of Gary, Lowe's, we partnered with the mayor, and we will be passing out cleaning supplies, right? It's something we call a bucket brigade, and it's cleaning supplies, the after fact of the storm. So we have associates out there connected with the communities at 3 p.m. today, passing those out. So what's in that bucket, right? It's a Lowe's bucket. There are cleaning supplies, garbage bags, disinfectants, hand sanitizers, and things like that to start to help with the cleanup process.
And Tim, where do people even begin? You know, when they've faced such destruction at their homes, we were in Munster last week, and it was just, oh my goodness, the trees just blocking the streets still. And the National Guard was out there the day that I was in Northwest Indiana, just trying to help people clean up. But, what's your advice for people at home if maybe the insurance adjusters have finally come by and they are ready to start tackling the mess? Where do you begin? Do you start inside? Do you start outside? Do you start in the basement, getting after that flooding? What's your advice?
So the advice I would give is first off, safety. And a lot of what we're seeing in Northwest Indiana, we have trees down on homes, trees down in streets. So I would start with the outside and getting the debris and everything cut down. And because you have to be safe to be able to get into the home. But we've experienced customers that have devastation from a flooding standpoint in the home. So it's not really a targeted area to start. I would say just anything that's safe, right, to get access to your home. But a lot of what we've seen thus far is the massive power outages. And with the power being out, there's really not much you can do. So there is a specific area I would say start in the safest place for you and your family.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. The power outages have just been so difficult for so many people. And we were just checking the NIPSCO outage list again, and there are still more than 100,000 people without power, making things so much more difficult for them when they are literally in the dark. Tell me a little bit more about the distribution of these buckets. Where will the bucket brigade be? And I understand it's starting at 3 o'clock today.
Yes, so the Bucket Brigade will be right across the street from the City Hall in Gary, Indiana. Again, the things that are in that Bucket Brigade are safety measures, even from safety gloves to goggles to hand sanitizers, garbage bags, things like that, right? In the pass out, we do have associates there that will be handing it to the community, right? This is our community, and we're here to support. We have a little bit over 300 buckets that we will be giving out. And then we're going to do it again in a few more communities next week.
Awesome. And I see that since 2017, Lowe's has distributed more than 100,000 buckets and totes to help people in these relief efforts. Talk about what that means to you personally, just to be able to lend a helping hand in this way.
So as a district manager, and look, I look at it that our associates live in these communities. I live in these communities, and for Lowe's to lend a helping hand to communities, I think it's powerful. And like you said, since 2017, over 100,000 buckets and totes, giving away a free product for the aftermath, for the things, the essentials that the customer needs to get back on track for their homes. And I would tell you, every year we distribute thousands and thousands of these supplies nationwide to places that are hard hit by disasters. But internally, as a district manager, it's really fulfilling to see not only myself be able to go out, but also the associates that have the heart to go out and help in their communities. Hands down is one of the most amazing things we do for the company. We do give back a lot, and I really appreciate that.
Yeah, on your own block, are you like the go-to guy? Do your neighbors all know what you do for a living? Do they come to you asking for advice, questions?
Yes, I was out with a chainsaw helping to cut down a neighbor's tree because
Oh,
he didn't have one. And I think that being a good neighbor and what we're doing right now, even in Lowe's for our community, these are our communities that we service. These are the customers and the associates that shop with us every day. And just like my neighbor, I am proud to be a good neighbor as a district manager and able to support the community that's been devastated.
I love that. That is so sweet, so kind of you. Another great thing that'll be happening at stores, tell us a little bit about through November 3rd, customers can help support the Lowe's effort. Their transactions will be rounded up.
Yes. So round it up at the registers. You can round up, save your change, and you really donate your change to help the efforts in times like this, right? I would say that our company, even in our communities, just gives back so much to communities. You know, from a veteran standpoint, disaster standpoint, taking care of associates, taking care of people. But the roundup is something that I personally take advantage of a lot when I'm shopping. I round up my change just to give it back to a great cause.
Yeah, and every dollar counts in situations like this. What are people coming into the store for? If they are heading out to Lowe's stores in the area, what are some of the top items that they're purchasing in this last week?
So the top item, the first couple of days were generators, right? And we still have a lot of customers that are out of power. And so that is still an item that is gaining traction and going. But we do have the cleaning supplies right now. There were a lot of sump pumps because there were basements flooding. But right now we're in a cleaning stage. Let's go inside the home and clean up. We have the debris, the chainsaws, the oils, bar and chain oils, safety glasses, goggles, a lot of extension cords, right, to plug to the generators. But at this point, we're a few days out from the storm. Just a lot of cleaning products, and more importantly, water, because water. A lot of customers are doing that and using coolers because they have no power to put it in the refrigerator. So water and the necessities that we carry from a home improvement standpoint is what's been going out of the door.
Well, Tim, before I let you go, I've got to ask about the patches on your vest. Please give us a little bit of a rundown. What do they all mean?
So this patch is an executive badge that I can only get from the CEO or any executive, and it's truly humbling to be able to receive this for taking care of associates and doing things like taking care of the community. And I wear this because I show my associates that, hey, it's achievable. You can have one also. This badge is the 2-year tenure of me being a district manager at Lowe's right now, 2-year tenure. And then the golden standard is just something we all achieve to do the golden standard. And more importantly to me is this badge, more important than any of them, is a mentor badge. And I consider myself a mentor in every store I go to. There's always associates looking up to me. And any knowledge I can give them from a DM perspective, I try to give them that. And I think the ultimate mentor is not about leadership, it's about what you do for people in times of need. How do you mentor and bring people up? How do you make sure that people get promoted? So I love this patch more than any of them, and being a mentor at my stores.
Well, and today is a great example of that. One more time for our viewers, give us the details on that Bucket Brigade pickup starting at 3 o'clock.
So the Bucket Brigade pickup starting at 3 o'clock. We will be unloading here shortly at 1:30. Just make sure that the product gets there. And we have associates there on the ground. There are free buckets. There's cleaning supplies. We are right across the street from the city hall in Gary, Indiana. We actually have people on the ground right now, and there are lines there now. But not only are we excited to give it out, but to take away. And the last thing I would tell you is that we will continue to be in our communities to support our communities even after the disaster.
Tim, thank you so much for joining us.
No, thank you.
All
Appreciate
right,
you.
come back anytime. That was Tim Lucas, District Manager for Lowe's. And as he mentioned, a Bucket Brigade will be out handing out cleaning supplies to residents. It is taking place in Gary today, starting at 3, right across from City Hall. We want to head back out to Glenpool, Oklahoma, where, oh, wow, look at that smoke. We brought this to you just before we went out to Tim, and it looks even worse than it did then. So apparently out in Glenpool at a pipeline facility, 2 gas tanks exploded. This is in Glenpool, Oklahoma, just outside of Tulsa. You could see those flames raging on, and when the smoke is that thick and that dark, you know it is going to be quite a challenge for crews to put this out. I mean, you could just see those plumes of smoke and the flames still just really bursting there. This is going to be a massive response effort. Emergency crews already on the ground. What we don't know is whether anyone was injured, whether there's been any loss of life here. But your early reports indicate that a potential lightning strike may have been a factor in this, may have caused this. We are still working to get more information from officials, but this is just really a devastating scene to take a look at just how big that smoke is, those flames just really raging on. We'll come back out to this. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll take another check of this live picture in 2 minutes. Stay right here. Welcome back to Chicago Live. We want to take you back out to that devastating scene out of Glenpool, Oklahoma. This is just outside of Tulsa. There has been a pipeline facility explosion there. At least two tanks have exploded. Early reports indicate it may have been caused by a potential lightning strike. You can just see those massive flames and that dark, thick smoke coming from the facility. That waterway you're seeing there is the Arkansas River. If you are familiar with the area there in Oklahoma, just to familiarize yourself with where exactly this is, we do have an update from the city of Glenpool. They just took to Facebook. I'll read this statement. It says that the containment remains intact. No additional tanks are on fire as of this update, which was posted about 45 minutes ago, and additional equipment and resources have just arrived on scene. Crews, they say, are preparing for the next phase of this response. You can imagine the challenges that they are facing as they begin to try to tackle this this fire here and this explosion. So air monitoring is continuing throughout the area. We do know that local schools are under a shelter in place. The Glenpool Fire Department is the main agency that has taken on this investigation, rather. Now, the city of Glenpool writes on Facebook that because of weather conditions, they are asking residents to limit their outdoor exposure, and there is a precautionary recommendation to shelter in place. So they are saying that the tanks involved at this facility contain liquid petroleum products. Officials do believe, it is confirmed here, they do believe that it was caused by a lightning strike shortly before 8:30 a.m. local time. This remains a very active investigation. And, you know, when the smoke is that dark, it's that thick, they are really in the early phases here. That is a tough blaze to tackle. You know, when the smoke starts to get white, to get a little thinner, you can tell that they are toward the end of their firefighting. But in this case, this is just getting bigger. The longer we sit on this image, and those flames really, you can imagine, have likely just engulfed that facility. Officials have not yet said whether anyone was injured. We don't know how many people were working at the facility at the time, but if it happened around 8:30 a.m., you can imagine that there was a shift there on scene. We hope that they got out in time. We will bring you updates on whether anyone was injured, hoping for no loss of life, of course, in this situation. Really just a difficult scene to watch here as those flames continue to grow. We will stay on this picture for just another minute or so, but I do want to preview a couple of guests that we have coming up. We're going to take a quick break here shortly, but after that break, we will be chatting with someone who will be talking a little bit about whether jaguars can possibly make a comeback here in the U.S. There have been some sightings in Arizona, but also just across the border in Mexico. And ecologists say that there is potential for a new boom in jaguars here in the U.S., but they do have some concerns about whether they'll be able to actually cross over into the U.S. because of the border wall. So we're going to break all of this down with an expert from the Borderlands Restoration Network coming up. We do also want to take you out to the Lindsay Clancy murder trial. At some point, Lindsay's mom was just on the stand. They did take a recess, so we won't be heading out there just yet, but we do know the prosecution has rested. It is now in the hands of the defense to argue their case. We will go back out to that when we have it in a little bit. Let's take a closer look at this image one more time, just to see the smoke. really taking up more and more of this live video image every time we look at it. And to think that this has been going on since 8:30 local time in Oklahoma, it has been hours and it is clearly still not contained. Again, if you're just joining us, several liquid natural gas tanks exploded in Glenpool, Oklahoma. That is just outside of Tulsa, if you are familiar with the area, and that is the Arkansas River that you are seeing there, just kind of behind, just beyond that fire there. Stay with us here on Chicago Live. We will be right back after this break, and we'll take another look at this live picture from Oklahoma when we come back. Welcome back to Chicago Live. The time is now 1:53 on this Monday. We've been covering all sorts of topics this morning, including chatting with the host of the Prosecutor's Podcast, who broke down what we have seen so far in the Lindsay Clancy trial. Out of Massachusetts, the mother of 3 is accused of strangling her children back in 2023. She did admit to that fact, but her defense argues that she was in a state of postpartum psychosis. Her mom was just on the witness stand. Let's listen in to see who they have on the witness stand right now.
If you find those facts to be, then you may reject the testimony and the opinion of the expert in whole or in part. You must remember that expert witnesses do not decide cases, juries do. So in the last analysis, an expert witness is like any other witness in the sense that you alone make the judgment about how much credibility and weight you give to that expert's testimony and what conclusions you draw from the testimony. All right? And I'll go into that a little bit more at the end when I go into the more extensive instructions I'll give you at the end of the trial. All right. All right, Mr. Rankin.
Afternoon.
Afternoon.
Can you tell us your name and spell your name?
It's Michael Wolfovich. It's V as in Victor, U-L, F as in Frank, O, V as in Victor, I-C-H.
And what do you do for work, sir?
I'm an emergency medicine doctor. I work full-time at Newton Wellesley Hospital.
Newton Wellesley?
Yes.
And can you tell us are you board certified, sir?
I am. I'm board certified in emergency medicine.
And that would be by the American Board of Emergency Medicine?
Correct.
And how long have you been practicing emergency medicine?
I did 3 years of residency, and this is my 13th year as a full-time attending.
And you're presently employed, where is it?
Newton Wellesley Hospital primarily, and then I do some additional shifts at Emerson Hospital in Concord.
How about medical school? Where'd you go to med school?
St. Louis University School of Medicine.
And what year did you graduate?
2011.
Obviously licensed in the Commonwealth.
Yes, sir.
In the course of your training and experience, sir, do you work full-time in a particular field of medicine?
Just emergency medicine. So basically we see any and all comers, anything from ankle sprains to traumas.
Okay. Did I ask you to review some documents regarding this particular case involving Lindsay Clancy?
You did. You asked me to review the...
Very what you reviewed.
Oh, sorry. You asked me to review the photos from the crime scene and then the emergency medical records from South Shore Hospital, Brigham and Women's Hospital, and then the records from her hospital stay at Brigham and Women's Hospital.
So in reviewing all of those various hospital records, sir, you're aware that on January 24th of 2023, she initially was transported to South Shore Hospital. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And can you tell the jurors what's treatment she received at the South Shore Hospital briefly?
So she arrived with a GCS of 10, meaning she was not really very responsive.
Let me interrupt you just because that, what did you say, a G6?
GCS, Glasgow Coma Scale.
Okay, slow down, because I don't understand. What is a GCS?
It's a Glasgow Coma Scale. It's a series of things that we look at to determine how responsive somebody is. You know, whether their eyes are opening spontaneously, whether they're able to speak on their own, and whether you're able to understand what they're saying, and then how much, if at all, they're moving, whether they're moving spontaneously, whether they can follow commands, that kind of thing.
Okay. So the Glasgow Coma Scale GCS of 10, what does that tell you as an emergency room doctor?
Tells us that she was not very responsive on arrival. It sounds like she was not speaking intelligibly, and the doctors at South Shore Hospital were concerned about her ability to maintain her own airway and made the decision to intubate her, which means putting a breathing tube down her throat into her lungs and placing her on a ventilator and sedating her.
Was she also, what would be, I guess, referred to as hypothermic?
She was.
What does that mean?
Means that her body temperature was below what's considered normal. So in her case, her core body temperature was, I believe, 82.1 degrees, which would put her into severe hypothermia.
And did you note that she was tachycardic and hypotensive?
Yes.
What did that mean?
So it means that her heart rate was above 100. And hypotensive means that her blood pressure was below what is considered normal.
And South Shore Hospital, were they able to stabilize her?
It sounds like they were able to stabilize her by placing a breathing tube in her neck, in her throat, to help with her breathing. And then they basically proceeded to obtain a bunch of imaging, started her on medications to sedate her and artificially raise her blood pressure. They started working on rewarming her, and then in conjunction with the trauma team there, they made the decision that she would be better served at a hospital with a higher level of care.
Okay. And can you tell us what the injuries were that she presented herself with to the South Shore Hospital?
So there were multiple injuries. She had lacerations to bilateral wrists.
When you say lateral, what does that mean?
Bilateral, both sides. So she had a laceration both to her left wrist and to her right wrist, and then multiple superficial lacerations as well. And then she also had multiple superficial lacerations to both sides of her neck, the front of her neck, and 2 deeper lacerations to the sides of her neck.
So when you say superficial lacerations and then deeper lacerations, do you recall what's the standard? What do you look for in something like that?
So it's tough. Everybody will describe them a little bit differently. In her case, I would describe multiple superficial lacerations, which would typically mean kind of scrapes on the surface of the skin, nothing that actually gets through the full thickness of the skin. And then she also had full thickness lacerations, meaning that she made it all the way through the skin into the subcutaneous tissue, the fatty tissue. And then you would need to describe it further if any additional structures were injured, which in her case they were not.
Now, in your experience for a number of years in the emergency room, have you had occasion to treat people that have tried to commit suicide or successfully committed suicide by cutting their throat?
Multiple times.
Multiple times. And can you tell us, in your opinion, to a reasonable degree of medical certainty, sir, as to whether or not this injury or these injuries that you observed were consistent with what you've seen in other suicide attempts?
Sustained.
Well, can you tell us, did that look like an effort to pretend or fake a suicide?
Sustained.
Well, when you looked at the injuries, did you make a determination that they appeared to have some impact on the human body of Ms. Clancy?
Yes.
What was that?
They were consistent with self-injurious behavior. The intent, I can't gauge, but...
Anything further?
Okay.
Next question.
Yep, thank you. How about the wrist? What did you observe about the wrist injuries, sir?
So she had 2 full-thickness lacerations, one on the left and one on the right.
What does that mean?
Means that she made it all the way through the epidermis and the dermis, which is what makes up the skin in the wrist, and into the fatty tissue, which is the next layer.
Okay. Are you familiar in your experience, sir, with hesitation wounds in a suicide attempt?
Yes, to some.
You were just listening into testimony from the Lindsay Clancy trial out of Massachusetts. The defense has called another doctor to the stand. We also heard from Lindsay's own mother just about an hour ago. We'll pop back into that trial in just a bit. Let's take a quick break, and coming up, we'll be chatting with experts about a wastewater issue unfolding in New York. Stay right here. Welcome back to Chicago Live. Our next topic, we will be taking you out to the East Coast. A new report shows that a New York landfill produces more than 65 gallons of leachate a year, and that waste travels through sewage plants and often ends up in major drinking water sources. We want to introduce now Yvonne Taylor from the Seneca Lake Guardian and Rebecca Martin from New York River Watch. Thank you both for being here.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Thanks. Thank you. And my first question is for you to explain to our viewers, what is leachate?
Sure. First of all, it's 65 million gallons a year of this toxic garbage water, just to be clear, that Seneca Meadows is distributing. So leachate is garbage water, for those who haven't heard the term before. And it's a contaminated liquid that's created when rainwater seeps through a landfill and picks up the chemicals from everything in our trash. and that includes PFAS, which are the legacy chemicals that everyone is talking about today, and there are 21,000 of those that have been introduced into our products that we're purchasing, heavy metals, pesticides, and other synthetic chemicals. So many of you can imagine what this is like if you make coffee every morning and you run clean water through coffee grounds. And what comes out of our morning coffee is this brown liquid that's actually good to drink. So leachate works in much of the same way, except the coffee grounds are our garbage. So rainwater runs through what is a pile of waste, picks up whatever chemicals are in that waste, and then carries them out as leachate. So that's what leachate is in a nutshell.
And what are you seeing as far as these 65 million gallons of water a year? This report shows that was between 2019 and 2023, that each year this one single site averaged that much leachate. When it does get into the drinking water, what kinds of implications does this have?
Well, I'll just say one thing about this, just to take a 30,000-foot view, and then I'm going to hand it to Yvonne, who's located in the shadows of Seneca Meadow Landfill, doing their work at Seneca Lake Guardian. But our report actually tracked 500 million gallons of landfill leachate a year between 2019 and 2023 that was sent through sewage treatment plants in New York. Because of a loophole. And it's not just a New York State problem, it's just where we happen to be and where we're working, and in the middle of new regulations for New York State. But because federal laws govern how landfill leachate is managed and treated throughout the nation, it's a national problem. Every state has the same problem. It's actually a global problem. And so that extends well beyond our national borders. But our work is focused in New York, as I said, and we've created this report, which is definitely the first of its kind, that shows the amount of leachate, what it is, how it's transported through a leachate to municipal sewage treatment plants that are not created, not equipped to filter toxic chemicals. That really allows landfills a very cheap and easy, fast way of getting rid of this garbage water from its site. And Yvonne can talk to you a little bit about our findings in the Seneca Falls area and Seneca Meadows.
Yeah, please, Yvonne, what have you found?
Yes, well, we've known for many, many years what it's like to live in the shadow of the state's largest landfill, where there are multiple environmental, human health, and economic negative impacts of being in a community that hosts this kind of garbage. But thanks to New York River Watch and their amazing work, they're amplifying what we've pretty much known all along, that the landfill accepts the waste, but it just doesn't stop there. Then we, in turn, produce this toxic stuff that goes into waterways all across New York State by the millions of gallons of it. Seneca Meadows produces 7,400 gallons of contaminated leachate every single year. Every single hour. And so this is an enormous public health crisis that Rebecca and her team has exposed, where these contaminants go into sewage plants that are designed to treat raw sewage and not designed to reduce or eliminate these harmful contaminants before they go into our waterways and often upstream from people's drinking water resources.
And have you heard from community members? What have you found in speaking with people who, like yourself, live very close to this plant? Are they concerned by the quality of the drinking water?
Absolutely, 100%. The Finger Lakes here in upstate New York sits on trillions of gallons of beautiful, fresh drinking water, which is not only our way of life, but it also supports our driving economic engine in the region, which is agriculture and tourism. And all of those jobs, 60,000 of them in total that generate $4 billion into New York State's economy on an annual basis, rely on clean air and clean water for their survival. And as a world-class wine and tourist destination, this landfill flies in the face of everything that we know and love about our home. And not only that, but they're supposed to close, they were supposed to close December of 2025 when they were full. And instead, now they want to expand and put 6,000 tons of garbage a day on top of an unlined former Superfund site for another 15 years. So it's a huge problem, and it's indicative of a larger problem that New York River Watch has uncovered.
And what are local officials, local lawmakers, what are they saying?
There is a local law on the books called Local Law 3 that urged the landfill to close when it became full in December of 2025. The landfill is suing the town over that local law, and that local law is in the appeals process now with a pending court appearance coming up in September.
Great. And Rebecca, what's next for this effort?
Well, right now, the report was just released. It's actually our second report. We took a bite at the apple a couple of years ago, looking at the impacts of garbage water and the effects of it into the Hudson and Mohawk rivers that serve as primary drinking water sources. And what we want to do is close the loophole. And the loophole essentially is that landfills are required to collect leachate, garbage water on site. But instead of requiring that contaminated water to be treated there on site, it can be sent to municipal sewage treatment plants, trucked or piped. So the problem, as we've said, is that sewage treatment plants are designed to treat human sewage, not landfill leachate. And so we're essentially taking this highly contaminated municipal industrial waste stream and sending it through a system that wasn't designed for it, and then discharging the resulting wastewater into rivers and lakes where dilution is not treatment. And in many cases, the waters serve as primary drinking water supplies. And so right now, New York State is finally, after decades of needless pollution, are beginning to address this problem. And so the rule is drafted, though hasn't gone far enough. And so we have a whole campaign at this moment helping communities across New York State, and especially those who are downstream of where these toxic chemicals are entering into rivers and lakes, to take part in what is a public comment period for new regulations. It's a once-in-a-generation opportunity through September the 9th. And folks can visit leachateloophole.org to see our very simple action for the public to take, for communities across New York State to learn about this problem. But really, and we're grateful to be able to be with you today in Chicago, this is a problem everywhere, and a good first step for community members is to find out whether or not their municipal sewage treatment plants are accepting leachate from landfills, where those are discharging, what waters are they discharging into, and become aware. The pollution in leachate, ultimately when it enters the waters, is not visible, but it's extremely toxic. And so we want to stop this practice here in New York State, and in hopes that we can help do a good job here to help other communities across the country and states across the country to do the same.
Well, thank you both so much. Certainly something that everyone should be aware of. Any final words for our viewers?
I would just have to say,
sorry, go ahead. Please go.
Very quickly, it's time to change our throwaway system. It's a culture where there really is no away and throw away, and we know the solutions are out there. We just need the political capital to get there, and this report shines a bright light on one of the reasons why.
Rebecca and Yvonne, thank you so much for joining us here on Chicago Live.
Thank you.
All right. Stay with us. We will be right back after this quick break. Welcome back to Chicago Live. The time is now 2:17. We want to take you back out to Glenpool, Oklahoma, where there is a massive explosion that authorities have responded to. It actually happened at 8:30 this morning, caused by a lightning strike, struck two liquid petroleum gas tanks there at a pipeline facility. And you can see on the left there, that plume of smoke, there's a blaze. But if you look at the right, there are some flames that are popping out of that smoke on the right side as well. If you just keep an eye, you'll see some flickering of flames in that plume of smoke as well. Just really dark, thick smoke. Authorities are on the ground. We did hear from officials in the city of Glenpool that say that there are shelters in place recommended for area residents. Some who live in the immediate area have been evacuated, and school children are right now in a shelter in place at their schools. We will continue to keep an eye on this, but each time we come back out to this live video image here, there just seems to be more smoke, bigger flames. So this is going to be a tough one to tackle. Still no word on whether anyone was injured. We'll come back out to that in just a bit. Switching gears now to the battle over the Bears Stadium. Last week, the organization said they are still committed to Indiana. They are exploring two sites in Hammond. We want to bring in a Bears superfan, though, to join this conversation. This after a video went viral over the weekend from a fan at the game who showed the stands and then kind of turned their camera in the direction of Northwest Indiana. Here it is, zooming now into Northwest Indiana. And this video has gone viral. Tons of comments on X, online. Jake is our Bears superfan who we are chatting with today. Jake, you were at the game. Tell me a little bit about what you make of this.
Very interesting. I think it goes to show with the amount of views this video got, how controversial the subject is. Everybody wants to know whether they're going to Indiana, whether they're staying in Illinois and playing at Arlington Heights, or if they're going to end up staying in Chicago. From the team latest, we've heard that they're focused on going to Hammond. But as you can see from that video, which has gotten over 5 million views from my good buddy Cream, it seems that a lot of people are not too happy with the surrounding area of the smokestacks and this and that. The team went out and made a video showing that they could see the Illinois skyline from Hammond, where they want to build. However, if you see from the Soldier Field, it's not the prettiest look.
And, you know, as you mentioned it, a lot of people are comparing the two. Are the Bears trading in the Chicago skyline for some of the smokestacks that we see in this video here? You mentioned it, but a lot of commentary. And one thing that I thought was interesting from last week's press conference with the Bears organization is that a reporter pointed out to George McCaskey that a lot of fans are not happy that the Bears might be leaving the city of Chicago. He kind of questioned that. What do you make of that? And he said, you know, I'm not trying to make light of it, but he kind of questioned, well, where did that reporter get that information from? You know, you just have to go on social media to see the back and the forth. Some, of course, don't mind the fact that they're going to Northwest Indiana, but we have seen comment after comment of a lot of fans hoping that they do stay in Illinois. Did you see that comment by chance by George McCaskey? And what do you make of the organization's press conference from last week?
I did see it, yes. Watching the press conference, I don't have I still feel like Illinois is still in it. And I think a lot of people still do. No matter what they say about Hammond, I still feel like they are using it as possible leverage. But everybody knows it's tough to work with some of the politics here, and the money is going to be tough. So it's just going to be wait and see. But looking at all the comments from that video that was posted, and just I'm very active on all Bears social media. I talk to all kinds of people, and it seems to me like the overwhelmingly favorite is that people want the Bears to stay in Illinois. Unless you're from Northern Indiana, it seems like everybody wants them to stay in the state.
And I'm looking here at the comments. It doesn't look like the Bears have commented. Have you heard from your friend who posted this? Have they gotten any comments from anyone with the Bears organization, maybe any players?
Nothing at all, but I hope this video is shown to them and they review the comments and see how many people are interested in this and how many people want to actually have the Bears stay here.
So at the game, I'm just curious, was there a lot of chatter about the stadium talk? You know, just fans and surrounding seats? Or was it just, you know, regularly scheduled programming at that preseason game on Saturday?
It was pretty normal. Once the ball gets snapped, everybody's ready to watch football. So it's kind of chatter that's in between games and during the off season. I think that right now the team and probably the coaching staff and majority of the fans are looking forward to this season. Got one heck of a team, and I think that whatever kind of happens. But let's watch some football and hope that the Bears keep winning some games.
All right, and you're a Bears super fan. Tell me a little bit about your own game day routine.
My own game day routine, I get my gear on like this. You know, it's a Monday right now, and I'm wearing this kind of stuff. If I can get over to Soldier Field, love it. But really, it's all about the mentality, just getting football focus and be ready to rock for game day.
You know what, Jake, one more question, too. If the stadium, the new stadium, does have a dome, what are your thoughts on the benefits of playing in the cold, playing when it's snowing? And do you think that this could potentially be a disadvantage if the Bears do have a dome that is, you know, it's not retractable, it always stays closed?
I'm a little bit biased. I love bear weather. I love the team playing out in the cold. But as George McCaskey did say, we had a team come into Chicago, the Los Angeles Rams, who are familiar in playing in a dome in warm weather. They came in and beat us in the playoffs. So it's for the fans, it might be nice to be inside during those cold weather games. But the kind of old school in me wants to say that we should be playing outside, bear weather, baby.
All right, Jake, thank you so much for joining us and offering us your insight.
Thanks so much. Packers suck. Go Bears.
All right, Jake, thank you. Okay, stay right here on Chicago Live. We're going to take a quick break. And coming up, we'll be chatting a little bit about the death of Tommy John. He passed away at the age of 83. The Tommy John surgery coined after he made a successful return following that surgery. We're chatting with a doctor a little bit more about what it all entails coming up. Welcome back to Chicago Live. Over the weekend, Tommy John passed away at the age of 83 in his home in Florida. He was the first pitcher to successfully return to the game after a groundbreaking elbow surgery at the time, later coined as the Tommy John surgery. We want to bring in now Dr. Arif Salim, medical director at Rush Orthopedics and Sports Medicine in Aurora, to tell us a little bit more about what goes into this surgery. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Casey, for having me. And first, before I begin, I just wanted to say, yes, that Tommy John really was somebody who took on that courage to undergo this operation, which was a pioneering operation at the time. And Dr. Frank Joe performed it back in 1974. And at the time, that procedure was never done before, and Tommy John underwent it, and to his credit, really was able to perform at a high level for several years, almost 14 years after that procedure. So just to go into a little bit about what we do today, and that procedure has evolved over time since it was originally done on Tommy John. It's basically, I have a little elbow model to show you, but basically we take,
perfect.
we take we take a ligament or a tendon rather from somebody's forearm.
Okay.
And then we use it to reconstruct a ligament on the inside of the elbow. And that ligament is called the ulnar collateral ligament. And so the ulnar collateral ligament is really important in throwers and overhead athletes, because what happens is when they try to throw and they exceed the limits of that ligament, whether due to one significant injury or most often due to repetitive injury, that ligament can sort of fail over time, and then the ligament sort of opens up and the elbow becomes unstable. So in order to counteract that, we use this tendon from the wrist often, and then we use it to, we say, reconstruct that ligament. Now that procedure has evolved over time, and there's different variations of that procedure, but that's essentially what is done.
And when someone does have this injury, what do they feel? Is it a snap? Is it, is it instant pain? Kind of describe the telltale signs.
Yeah, that's a great question, actually, because, initially, sometimes athletes won't feel anything like you described, a pop. They might just say, I've lost control. I can't get the ball where I normally get it. I'm doing all the things that I normally do, and I can't seem to get it there. Or maybe they've lost velocity on their pitch. And so those might be the initial signs. But then, of course, there may be pain. And then the ultimate sign is typically, as you described, a pop. So that's sort of the last thing that occurs. And we certainly want to get to patients before that happens to try to prevent athletes from getting on our operating room table.
Yeah, and you mentioned it at the top of the interview, but for Tommy John at the time, back in 1974, to undergo an operation that had it never been done before when he had it?
That's correct. It had never been done on a major league athlete before. And so it was, and the way Dr. Jobe had performed it was definitely innovative and was never done quite that way. And so it was really a novel technique that the principles of that operation are same as the principles as we use today. We've just sort of refined them to be somewhat less invasive, to have less sort of sizable drill holes so that we're doing less invasive procedures on the bone. But essentially, we're recreating the ligament just like Dr. Jobe did. And so it's a credit to him, and it's a credit, again, to Tommy John for, actually helping the lives of so many athletes for so many years to come, and restoring, their ability to throw and compete.
For a typical athlete who does undergo this surgery, what is the recovery time like?
Sure. So recovery is typically, we tell an athlete who throws off of a mound at least 12 months before they're going to be able to pitch off of a mound. But there's a whole recovery process that occurs from the initial surgical procedure all the way through the rehab. And we work closely with the therapist to incorporate throwing programs at the appropriate time. And so in general, it's at least about 12 months for full return to throwing.
And how long does the procedure itself take?
The procedure can take anywhere from an hour to maybe an hour and a half, depending on the types of graft that we use. Sometimes it takes a little time to harvest the graft from the wrist. Some surgeons may sometimes prefer to use different types of grafts, sometimes from the knee. So it all depends, but roughly an hour and a half.
And do you ever see any non-athletes come in with this injury? And in that case, how do they injure themselves? How do they get hurt?
Sure. So the ulnar collateral ligament is essentially a restraint to keeping the elbow from torquing away from your body. So we see these injuries in traumatic falls. For example, somebody might fall and injure themselves. And we talk a lot about overhead athletes, but we see these injuries in wrestlers. We see them actually. A common demographic that I see in my practice right now is actually female wrestling has become a very common sport in my area. And so I've seen several female wrestling athletes with this injury as well.
Oh, wow. I can just imagine being pinned down and just things not going accordingly when you're kind of in that position.
That's true. Yes, wrestling is more on that line of where I talked about earlier, that where the force exceeds the limit of the ligament, and it sort of just goes all at once, and that's typically what we see in the wrestling component, as opposed to throwers where they get this sort of chronic, repetitive micro trauma to the ligament that happens over time.
And how many of these are you and your team performing, let's say, on any given week?
Sure. So this isn't, so the incidence is not that common that we're doing them weekly. So this is an operation we may, depends on the season as well. During the season, we may be doing one a week because these athletes, we cover several local high schools. And so, but during an off season, we won't be doing maybe any for 2-3 months. So it really would depend on the season.
All right, Dr. Salim, anything else that you want our viewers to know?
Well, I think the key, and I think most of your viewers will be interested to know, how do you prevent this from being my kid or myself from getting this injury? And I think the key is, listen to the telltale signs we've talked about. Really look into pitch count, work with your trainers, work with your coaches to make sure you really abide by those, because we really want to prevent these injuries as much as we can.
Excellent. Thank you so much for joining us here on Chicago Live.
My pleasure. Thanks a lot for having me.
All right. Talk to you again soon. That was Dr. Arif Salim, the medical director at Rush Orthopedics and Sports Medicine in Aurora. Stay with us here on Chicago Live. We are taking a quick break, and we'll be right back with much more. Look at this skyline shot. Absolutely gorgeous day after some really unpredictable weather that we have had in the last week. Welcome back to Chicago Live. There are still so many people in Northwest Indiana who are in the dark this afternoon, nearly a week after storms swept through the area. NIPSCO is still reporting 102,000 outages. That's 102,000 customers, rather, without power. Crews have been on the ground since last week trying to get the lights on, but there is still a lot more cleanup work to be done. Earlier, we chatted with Indiana State Police Sergeant Glenn Fifield, who talked a little bit about what the situation is like on the ground. Coming up, we'll be heading out to a suburb here in Illinois, the suburb of Glenwood, who also got hit hard, talking a little bit more about what they are dealing with. As you can imagine, those who have been impacted are now dealing with insurance claims, waiting for adjusters to come out before they can clean up a good part part of the damage on their properties. So a lot of work still to come in terms of cleaning up after the storm. We will have our chief meteorologist, Emily Walls, coming up here in just a bit to talk a little bit about the potential for storms tomorrow and maybe again later this week. Let's see one of our shots outside, though, because it is just gorgeous out today. Blue skies, the sun is shining. This after a really unpredictable weekend weather-wise. There's a live look at the Bean. Folks are out and about taking pictures. You know, the Air and Water Show over the weekend was postponed both days. Oh, if only this weather if only we had this weather over the weekend. Saturday, things got pushed pretty late. The Thunderbirds did not end up performing on Saturday. They did a little bit of a flyby, but announced that it just wasn't safe. The cloud ceiling was just too low. They did perform yesterday. The show was delayed, but they did get out there and gave folks a show. And wow, take a look at that spider in full view for us. Love that. All right, let's take a look back out to Oklahoma while that Spidey gets adjusted there. This is the scene in Glenpool, Oklahoma. That's just south of Tulsa. There has been a liquid natural gas explosion at a pipeline facility there. There is a shelter in place recommended for residents who live in the area. Schools are under a shelter in place right now, and some residents who live really close to this facility have been evacuated. Each time we have come back out to this live picture, the smoke just gets thicker. It takes up more of the screen here. Those flames are still raging on. City officials do confirm that this was caused by a lightning strike. The facility contains liquid petroleum products, and this happened at 8:30 this morning, hours ago, and crews are still trying to fight this fire. It's been a while. It's going to be quite some time. Still no word, though, on whether anyone has been injured. That latest update came from the city of Glenpool, Oklahoma, 1 hour ago. We continue to check to see if there are any other updates, any other official word from this situation here, but no new updates just yet. We'll continue to monitor that and bring you the latest as we have it. Switching gears now to over the weekend, actress Hayden Panettiere passed away at the age of 36 years old. Her family announcing her death last night on Sunday evening. An autopsy result, preliminary autopsy results rather, were just released, and they show that there was no physical trauma that may have led to her death. Toxicology results could take several weeks to be released. We do know that Panettiere did struggle with mental health challenges and addiction, but still the cause of her death is under investigation right now. She does have one daughter, and sadly, her younger brother several years ago also lost his life. So just a really difficult situation for her family. She's best known for her roles in Heroes, Nashville, and then a couple of movies, Ice Princess, Remember the Titans, Bring It On, All or Nothing. So certainly got her start as a teenager and has acted since then. Tragic in that regard. Okay, one thing we are following, the Robbins mayor was grazed in a deadly shooting at Harold's Chicken and Ice Bar. Our Joni Lumb covered this story last night. A masked gunman opened fire inside a Harold's Chicken early Sunday. A 21-year-old was shot by a security guard and later died. That was the gunman who was shot by a security guard. So a security guard at the restaurant did end up opening fire. Again, the person who originally fired shots, Markel Rose from Chicago, did lose his life. But the Robbins mayor grazed early Saturday morning when this gunman opened fire. It's a story we we have continued to follow. That shooting did unfold in Robbins. Let's take one more look out at that scene in Oklahoma. Really just a wild picture to look at. And you know, they are experiencing some severe weather there as well. So the sky was a lot clearer when we were looking at this image before. It is getting pretty dark out there. So officials say that they are also monitoring the severe weather threats in that area. This, of course, was caused, as we reported earlier, by a lightning strike that hit a gas tank at that pipeline facility. But still, you know, there are a lot of challenges that they'll be encountering as they continue to fight this now fire. Stay with us here on Chicago Live. We will be right back after this 2-minute break. Welcome back to Chicago Live. The time is just about 2:47. All afternoon, we have continued to cover the sweeping damage in Northwest Indiana and the south suburbs of Chicago. Our next guest is the village administrator in the village of Glenwood. I'd like to introduce now J.R. Patton. Hi, thank you for being here.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So tell us a little bit about what your residents have experienced after last week's storm.
Yeah, unfortunately, our residents have had to go through 2 rounds of this now. The village of Glenwood was hit with a tornado on the July 27th storm, and that hit one portion of the community. And then last Tuesday, we were hit by 2 separate National Weather Service confirmed tornadoes that devastated pretty much every block throughout the entire community. Trees were down on the power lines. Power was out in the community for most of the residents for at least 3 days. And we're still cleaning up. If you drove through the village today, you would think that, you know, the storm came through over the weekend, not almost a week ago.
And it really is just so devastating when you clean up after one storm and then in less than a month's time, you get hit with another. What have you heard from residents? Are people staying positive, or are they just exhausted? Maybe a combination of both.
It's definitely a combination of both, but I will say one of the things that happens when you have a community impacted like this is the community rallies together and comes together and helps everybody out. We were able to, using generator power, open up our senior center here in the village for air conditioning and for people to come in and charge their phones and devices. We had Red Cross out with meals for those that needed assistance. And then on Friday, myself, along with the police chief and the fire chief at the mayor's direction, had a large community cookout where we grilled hamburgers and hot dogs, and the residents came out, took a break from helping each other clean up the streets and trees, and just, you know, sat together. So it's been It's been a trying week, and I know the residents are tired and frustrated, but at the same time, came together, stepped up. I think the best thing, the best message we have is what our fire chief put on the sign at the fire station today, which was a message that said, "Mother Nature, please stop."
Yeah, I know. And we'll be chatting with Chief Meteorologist here, Emily Walls, shortly, because unfortunately there is a threat of potentially severe weather tomorrow. This just has to be so difficult to, even think about any more of this coming our way. What did it mean for community members, for residents who attended that cookout? I'm sure that was a nice break just to be able to pause from all the cleanup work.
Yeah, I think it was really well received and appreciated by those that were able to come out and join us, and just to have an opportunity to sit and commiserate with their fellow neighbors and see that we're all going through this together and we're all working together to try and get through it and get back to some sense of normalcy.
And you mentioned, that it looks like in the village as if the storm had come through a couple of days ago. What's next in terms of the greater cleanup efforts? Are there still a lot of downed trees that need to be tackled?
Oh yes, the initial aftermath of the storm, our public works crews got right on it and literally just started driving down the street and pushing trees to the side so that the roads could be open enough for traffic to get through. And since Tuesday afternoon, Tuesday evening, they've been working around the clock to go back through the village and start collecting those trees and branches and moving them off site. In addition to that, I think we're up to 5 outside contractors and tree companies working with our public works crews to kind of get those roads open. But this is going to be a several weeks to months long process in getting things back to the way they were before the storms hit.
And if any residents in your community need any more help, what do you suggest that they do?
They can contact Village Hall. We are open again now. That was part of the difficulty last week, as our Village Hall was hit just as hard as everybody else, and our phones and internet were down. We were not able to be open to the community, so we were able to open up again on Saturday. They can give Village Hall a call during the hours of 9 to 5. And if they need anything after hours, they can call the police department's non-emergency number, or of course for emergencies, they can call 911.
And talk a little bit about, where officials are during events like this, how you guys are monitoring and keeping track of when a storm does hit. You mentioned, those public works crews were out almost immediately. Talk a little bit about the preparation that it takes before, but also during a system that moves in, how you're tracking it.
Yeah, we had known early on that day and even the day before that there was the potential for severe weather to come through. And so, myself, the fire chief, the police chief, our public works director, we monitored it throughout the morning, kept the mayor and the village board apprised as to what was going on. Thankfully, the National Weather Service was moving very swiftly that morning and issued tornado warnings far in advance of the storm actually reaching us. So we were able to get, our staff that were in the buildings into secure locations and get our staff that were out on the streets inside and secured while the storm blew through. And then as soon as it came through and the coast was clear and we were safe to go outside, everybody was outside and began the process of assessing the damage and the cleanup work, with the mayor coming and the mayor and I driving throughout the village and assessing, block by block the rest of that day on Tuesday.
And Mayor Hart is one of those mayors that is encouraging state and federal officials to approve disaster relief funds for community members. Tell me a little bit more about his view on that.
Mayor Hart is, yes, she is one of those community leaders that is encouraging the state to declare a disaster so that we can begin conversations with the federal government to try and get resources here to the south suburbs. This is hugely important. We're a community of just over 8,000 people. We've been hit by 3 tornadoes in 2 weeks. We have a full-time public works crew of 11. And we've got, almost 3.5 square miles of storm damaged streets to clean up. We can't do it ourselves. Cook County has been hugely helpful with us. They've provided us with equipment and resources when we've asked for it. And the next step is for the state to do their part to declare this a disaster so that we can begin the process of requesting the funds that we're going to need to clean this up. As I said at the beginning, we were hit by a tornado in the July 27th storm. We had spent over $200,000 cleaning up from that storm and we weren't done yet. And this storm, the damage is a magnitude of 5 at least worse than that last one.
And in July, residents filled out a survey reporting damage. Tell me a little bit about how they can go about doing that again, and should they fill another one out, even if they were hit in July and they are now hit again?
Absolutely. The county released the new damage assessment survey Friday afternoon. We have it on our website. We have it on the village's Facebook page. I know it's available through Cook County's website. And they absolutely should fill out again if they receive damage from this most recent storm. As a matter of fact, I think the new survey actually lets you select multiple storms to report damage on. So for those that were unable or didn't get the damage assessment filled out for the July storm, I think there's an opportunity now for that as well with this new survey. But they absolutely should fill that out. The thing that we keep telling our residents is, the more we can report and the more data and metrics we can use to show just how hard our community was impacted, the better it makes our case for bringing the desired and necessary resources to the area.
All right, JR, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us. And we wish all of your residents the best in cleaning up, and hopefully things tomorrow stay calm.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Stay with us here on Chicago Live. We are going to take a quick break and we will be back. We've got another hour left together. Stay right here. Look at that shot of the city. Just absolutely gorgeous. Stay with us. Welcome back to Chicago Live. We've got one more hour left today before we turn things over to the news at 4, followed by the news at 5. We've got several more guests that'll be with us, including our very own Sammy P., who is out covering the Crosstown Classic. The series starts today. We will come out to him in just a minute or so, but first, we want to send things out to Lauren Scafidi, who is going to be giving us a little bit of a rundown about what is in store for the news at 5. Hey, Lauren, what are you working on?
Hey there, Casey. As always, it is a very busy day in the newsroom and all across Chicagoland and Northwest Indiana. We have our reporters scattered all around everywhere tonight to bring you stories at 4, 5, and 9. So I just wanted to give you a quick update on some of the things that our reporters are working on. We have some heavy ones, but I want to start with NIPSCO outages. That's happening in Northwest Indiana. Our Brett Bagansky is covering that. You know, this goes back to the storms that happened last week on Tuesday. More than 300,000 outages were reported on Tuesday, August 11th, in that storm that made history for NIPSCO. Still dealing with a lot of outages now. At last check, it was still 102,000 outages for NIPSCO. So Brett is getting some answers about that. There was a press conference just a couple hours ago, so he's going to have all of the updates for you on that. Really sad one that our Leslie Moreno is covering tonight. If you remember back in January of 2026, really sad in Downers Grove, Eliza Morales, she was 5 months pregnant and she was stabbed dozens of times. Now a 19-year-old is charged with first-degree murder and some other felonies because that unborn child was also killed, and the family dog was injured in that attack. And then prosecutors say that he started a fire to cover up the crime. So Leslie Moreno has a really emotional interview. She's talking to Eliza's sister via Zoom today just to talk about where things stand now. So Leslie is going to have that for you a little bit later today. Joni is going to be in Logan Square talking about a rave that happened on August 8th. So this was a really big deal. 16 teens were arrested and charged with criminal trespass. It was this viral rave that brought in hundreds of people, and there was some property damage. There's a lot of criticism now coming from local officials. So she's going to break down what's happening with that. So we have a lot of heavy stories, but I want to leave you on a good note. Sammy P is going to be checking in here on Chicago Live in just a little bit to talk about the Crosstown Classic. Day 1 of 3 kicks off today. So with that, I'll send it back to Chicago Live because plenty more coming your way today, Casey.
All right, Lauren, thank you so much. Always so much fun to have the Crosstown Classic. We will check in with Sammy P just after this break. Stay with us here on Chicago Live, and we'll head out to Wrigley Field.
The summer event.
Welcome back to Chicago Live. Oftentimes when we can, we love to check in with our reporters who are all across the city and suburbs. In this case, we are checking in with our very own Sammy P, who is at Wrigley Field to cover the Crosstown Classic starting today, again tomorrow, again the next day. How's it looking out there? It's a gorgeous day today, Sammy.
Beautiful, Casey. About 80 degrees, not many clouds in the sky. And about 4 hours from now, this place will be sold out for game one of the second round of the Chicago Cubs and the Chicago White Sox. Both teams would make the playoffs if the season ended today. And while some Cub fans would say, well, we'd rather beat the Cardinals or the Brewers, the fans that'll be here in less than, 4 hours from now, all they want to do is beat up on the team across town. So the Sox fans hate the Cub fans hate the Sox fans, and then there are like 5% of people that root for both teams, but we don't allow that.
Yeah, and it's always so much fun to first we were out at Rate Field, now it's at Wrigley. Talk a little bit about how things differ when the Crosstown Classic is at Rate Field and then when it's in Wrigleyville. What are some of the differences that you notice as someone who is on the field, you're there, you're covering it?
Well, if I can be honest, I've noticed a lot more fights over the years on the south side. Too many Modelo's and Miller Lights, I guess, at 35th Street. But I would say there's just an energy no matter what side of town it's on. You notice the boober is a little bit louder on the south side for sure from the fans in attendance. And here on the north side, it's a much louder but also a lot tighter of an environment because the fans are all closer together. And then, of course, you have the bleachers right on top of the field. It's definitely louder on the north side. I feel like there's more fiery energy on the south side, but that's all, of course, predicated on what happens on the field. So if the Sox are up 5-0 in the second inning, this place will be silent here.
Yeah. And what do you expect in terms of who's starting tonight? What should fans look out for? Any significant injuries?
No injuries, but Luis Castillo is on the bump for the White Sox. He, of course, is the guy who they acquired at the trade deadline to be one of their starting pitchers. And he was very, very good in his last outing on the south side. So he'll face the Cubs for the first time as a member of the White Sox. And then it's funny, Casey, the next 2 days, the White Sox have TBD for their starting pitchers because of a couple injuries in the rotation. So they're going to open their clubhouse up at about 4 o'clock local time. We'll probably have an update on that. Who will start on Tuesday? Who will start on Wednesday? It's Castillo for the Sox. And on the north side, they're giving the ball to Shota Imanaga, their lefty from Japan. It'll be their best three pitchers, ideally. Imanaga today, Gausman tomorrow, and then Clay Holmes on Wednesday. But this should be a fun one. I expect all these games to be tight. Remember, when they met the first round, basically every game came down to the wire, and I expect nothing to change this time around.
Do you think the Cubs will come out with a little bit more fire because they didn't come out on top in the May series?
I think that's a part of it, but more importantly, they just had a very, very tough series at home against the Cardinals, their arch rivals. The Cardinals came into Wrigley and took 2 out of 3. So if anything, sure, you want to come in and beat up on the White Sox, but you want to hang tight and you want to be a part of this postseason push. Now, they're decidedly in the playoffs if the season were to end today. I don't know that they're going to catch the Milwaukee Brewers, but as long as they can take a game in this series, you don't want to get swept against the White Sox. Nobody wants that as a Cub fan.
Yeah. Anything else, Sammy P, that you want viewers to know? We'll watch out for you, of course, later today. But anything you'll be looking out for today at the game?
Well, I'm being attacked by a bumblebee right now.
Oh,
it actually
no.
might be like you're out here in the sun, just like attracting. There's like a wasp or a bumblebee that's been trying to sting me for about 5 minutes. So maybe I could have a nice little puffer by the end of the show. But I'm just looking forward to seeing this place full. They're going to be at capacity all day today, probably all night tomorrow, and then Wednesday's an afternoon game. I love those 1:20 starts at Wrigley. So let's just hope for some good, clean fun, some tight baseball games, and some photo finishes down the stretch.
All right, I'll let you get safe from that bee. Thank you for joining us, Sammy P.
Thanks, Casey.
All right. Did you hear that rhyme, guys? I liked it. All right. Stay with us here on Chicago Live. We have a few more guests coming up, including we'll be chatting with Chief Meteorologist Emily Walls about what is in store for us this week. There is a chance of severe weather tomorrow. Could it impact the game at Wrigley Field tomorrow evening? We'll ask her about it in just a little bit. Live look right now at the Bean. People are enjoying this gorgeous weather out. Really is just a beautiful summer day here in the city. Stay with us. We'll be right back. This next topic is a story that we have been covering since last year. The Austin Hope Center this week will celebrate its ribbon cutting after many months of working on the project on the city's west side. The goal is to bring specialty care to the Austin neighborhood, to bring that care closer to home for families who need to see specialists, but maybe don't have the time or the resources to go all the way into the city or to some other area clinics. This will bring that care directly to them. I want to introduce now someone that we have chatted with before, Mary Kate Daly, the SVP and Chief of Community Health at Lurie Children's Hospital. Soon we will also be bringing in Pastor Contrell Jenkins from Lively Stone Missionary Baptist Church, who is also very involved in this process. But Mary, we'll start off with you. Thank you so much for being with us here on Chicago Live.
Thanks, Casey. Happy to be here.
So we have talked, of course, as I have come out and covered this story, to be here on the week of that ribbon cutting. What is going through your mind, your heart? This has been a labor of love.
I think all of us at Lurie Children's and everyone involved with this project, we are so excited. I can't believe it's finally time to open the Austin Hope Center this week. There has been so much planning going into this project, as you said, for years, honestly, and it really did all start in the Austin community with young people talking with Pastor Jenkins and with members of our team about the need to have better access to mental health services and to specialty pediatric care. And from that seed of an idea that was planted like 5 years ago, all the way to where we are today is pretty exciting. So we're really looking forward. This Thursday, we're going to have a ribbon cutting in the morning, and then in the afternoon, we're having a celebration for the whole community. Everyone is welcome. We would love for people to come out, come see the space, come meet the clinicians that are going to be providing care in the building. We'll have lots of fun and games, so we hope everybody will join us.
And it really is a celebration of the community, not just this ribbon cutting celebration Thursday, but the site itself, Mary, is such a celebration of community. And you mentioned teens, young adults, they have had a role in making this their own. Talk a little bit more about the community involvement in this process and why that was so important to the stakeholders.
We had our first official meeting with the Austin community. It was actually April of 2023. And that was just a big kind of public open community meeting to try to understand what are the needs in this community and in nearby neighborhoods that Lurie Children's could help to fill. And from there, we've had several sessions, both with adults in the community, but also some very specific sessions with young people in the community. We had the young people meet with our architects, and they actually drew pictures of designs for the building and designs for the teen lounge. We tried to understand from them, what should it feel like when you walk into a healthcare facility? How does it feel now, and how could it feel different? And what can we do to achieve that? And no surprise, the young people had great suggestions about the use of color, about comfortable seating, about how things are arranged, about what it looks like when you first walk in. So these are the kinds of things, even from the very beginning, where young people have been guiding this project. We also asked them about what are specifically the kinds of services that would be helpful in your community. And that helped us at Lurie Children's determine how are we going to use the space that we have in the Austin Hope Center. We also worked with young people to help to figure out the evaluation. You know, as an academic medical center, Lurie Children's, any project we're involved in, we're going to want to do a full evaluation plan to hope that we're having the impact that we want to be having. And so it was really young people that helped us to figure out what kinds of questions should we be asking as we evaluate the impact of this site. So really from day one, it has been young people in the Austin community that have been guiding Pastor Jenkins and me and the team through this whole process.
And it's a 25,000 square foot space. Talk to me a little bit about some of those specialty services that will be offered.
Well, the root of all this was a desire by young people to access more mental behavioral health services. So about half of our clinical space there will be for our Department of Psychiatry. So to be able to treat things like anxiety, ADHD, mood disorders, individual and group therapy. And then we'll also have some specialty care services, things like hematology, adolescent medicine, nephrology, preventive cardiology, pulmonology, gastroenterology. So those kinds of services will also be there. And then one really interesting one we heard loud and clear from people in the community as well as local pediatric providers in the community is a desire for an autism clinic there, because we all know that the wait times, it's a very long wait time if you need to see a specialist in developmental and behavioral pediatrics to evaluate or treat children for autism. And so our division head decided he wanted to base his practice there. So we will also have space to see young children that with autism at the center.
Really amazing work that you guys have all done and worked so hard on. I understand we have the Pastor Contrell Jenkins, the CEO of Stone Community Development Corporation. This site, this center, the Austin Hope Center, is co-owned by Jenkins and Chicago Neighborhood Initiatives. Pastor Jenkins, it's great to see you.
Good to see you, Casey. How are you?
Great. The week is finally here. Tell me how you're feeling.
Words, right? Let me try to put it in words. I would say I feel grateful would be a great word to use. A lot of gratitude and feeling very hopeful, filled with anticipation and expectation. Yeah, I feel amazing.
Walk me back. I know we've talked about this, but walk us back. Take our viewers who are at home back to the beginning. Why you saw a need for this in the community, and what drove you to pursue this? After all this time and this hard work to make this happen, you are now seeing it to fruition. Walk us back to that initial need and what you saw.
Yes. So the initial need for me started when I was doing youth programming through our arts programming here at Stone, and seeing a lot of our young people that was coming through our program having needs and going through things that I felt that I didn't have the competency to address, meaning me being a pastor, our programming, I could, support them with spiritual care, spiritual counseling, things of that sort. But I saw a bigger need, right? I saw them carrying things that require more help. So that's what led me. Like, I need help meeting some of these needs, meaning professional help like psychiatry, therapists, psychologists, stuff around mental behavioral health. And that put me on a journey to find the adequate help, right? And so that's when I met our partner, our dearly beloved partner in Laurie Children's Hospital, to come alongside us to bring these special services to address these special needs, in my opinion, that I was not able to address. And they can come in and meet those needs in our community. So, yeah, that's where it birthed out of.
And for far too long, the Austin neighborhood, other West Side neighborhoods have gone without close access, in physical distance to specialty care like this. For viewers at home, kind of explain, why this is so important to bring this care into this part of town.
Yes, vital because of, again, as you said, access, these type of specialty care. I was just talking to somebody the other day, was saying that they tried to get, and specific, their child mental behavior health service. They said they went on a long waiting list, right? And began to share how hard it is, and so just even talking to her, like, that was this past weekend, because we was talking about, of course, the Hope Center. So it's a huge need because of, it's especially for children. Like, I really don't know don't know nobody in this community that's bringing behavioral health to children. There's a lot of stuff out here for adults, but not children and kids. And so to be able to have this right here in Austin and on the west side, where they don't have to go way down the Streeterville to get this type of care is super important.
Absolutely. Before you joined, I was chatting with Mary Kate a little bit about the involvement of community members and teens. And Mary Kate, if you could elaborate a little bit on the Teen Lounge and just why spaces like that were so important to incorporate into the Hope Center.
Yeah, the kinds of programs that we are hoping to work with other partners that are already in the Austin community to bring there. This is about more than just clinical care. So clinical care is so important, and we're thrilled to be able to bring this mix of specialties, mental behavioral health and physical health services that the community has asked of us. We're also excited that this is a very new model for Lurie Children's, where it gives us a chance to, in all one building, have access to clinical care as well as community health programs. We know that health is more than health care, and a lot of times your health status is determined by social needs that are outside of even clinical care. So for us to be able to have this physical space where we're going to have a teen lounge, as you mentioned. We'll also have an early childhood room for parents to work, new parents to work with their babies, and therapists and others. We'll also have a community room that we hope can host trainings, education sessions, community meetings, things like that. The whole goal is for this building to really address more holistically the health of young people and families. So specifically in the Teen Lounge, this is a place that was designed by the young people in Austin, and that we hope that they will come and gather together. For example, I know that we're going to start hosting a local Girl Scout troop, and I know that some of our researchers and clinicians want to get youth input on their projects and on their work. And so our feeling is, if we can have them in this space that's right in their community, that they design themselves, that feels warm and inviting, and hopefully will lead to some really longer term relationships in the community, and to some new and creative ways that our hospital, as well as others in the community, can use this space to improve health and well-being, even beyond the clinical.
So the ribbon cutting is Thursday. You mentioned that community celebration in the afternoon. Folks who are interested in seeking care here for their kids, when does that start? How do they begin to make appointments?
So we'll be seeing our first patients starting September 15th, but people can make their appointments now. And actually, I just heard that we already have, I think, like 10 patients scheduled for September 15th. So you make your appointment just like you would at any other Lurie Children's location. You can do it online through your Lurie MyChart, or you can call 1-800-KIDS-DOC. However you would normally make an appointment, you can make an appointment. This will be our Austin Outpatient Center, and open to start seeing patients. You can call now, and we'll start seeing patients after September 15th.
Awesome. Pastor Jenkins, what do you want people to know about this Thursday's celebration? Oh, Pastor Jenkins, I think you're muted. We want to be able to hear you because you look so excited. Yes, tell us more about Thursday.
I want everyone that's watching to know you are welcome. Come see the Hope Center. Come be a part of something transformational that's happening in our community, and you are invited. We have something for everybody. Come tour the building. Come walk through it. It's going to be a great time.
Oh, thank you both so much. Really quick, one last point. You mentioned this early on, Mary Kate. This doesn't look like your typical medical office. It's colorful. There's going to be some local art there, a mural. Talk to us about, just why it was important to create a space that felt lighter than maybe your typical doctor's office.
Yeah, I mean, I think when Pastor Jenkins was talking about access and needing better access, the other thing is that access is about more than distance. So there's a lot of barriers to people wanting to seek healthcare services. And so part of what we're hoping that this building does is kind of have a different look and feel that was created by the community, so that it is a little bit more welcoming, a little bit warmer, and feels like it's addressing more holistically health. I know, Pastor, what else would you say to that?
Yes, I will add to that, as you said, is it more than access? As you're talking about access, I would also say, too, there are barriers in this community to people wanting to access these services. So I believe having this space with the art that's been put in there, with the community design in there, the stigma around, still as popular as mental behavioral health services is, there's still people in our community that's afraid of it, don't want to do it. So this space kind of making it as welcoming and warm, remove another barrier from a visual perspective. So.
Well, congratulations to you both, and we look forward to this Thursday's ribbon cutting. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having us, Katie.
Thanks, Casey.
Thank you. All right, we'll talk to you guys again soon. As they mentioned, the first patients will begin to be seen at the Austin Hope Center on September 15th, but the ribbon cutting is scheduled for this Thursday morning, but a community celebration will kick off in the afternoon. Stay with us here on Chicago Live. We've got JD Rudd in studio to talk a little bit about the forecast. Here's a shot right now of Pritzker Pavilion at Millennium Park. Gorgeous day out there. Get out there if you can. And our spider, our friend, is back on this camera. We'll leave him right here. Welcome back to Chicago Live. The time is just about 3:30 on this Monday afternoon, and what's on everyone's mind is, what is the weather going to do for us this week? JD Rudd is here in studio with us to talk us through it all. It's been so unpredictable.
This has been tough to get your finger on. We had some struggles over the weekend with some things that popped up here and there. This has been an up and down pattern, to say the least, but we're in for a much better week this week than what we had last week. So that's kind of the overall view.
All right. And, you know, over the weekend, our fingers were crossed about the Air and Water Show. Performers still did manage to get out there. The Thunderbirds didn't make it up in the sky for too long on Saturday.
No.
They did one little flyby and then had to get brought down. But they did get to put on a show yesterday. But just such an unpredictable day. I was out there with my poncho. I got soaked walking back home.
I mean, look at this.
Yeah,
this is
I know.
beautiful.
And today is perfect.
This is my wife and our kids. We were out there on Saturday. We were hoping to see some things.
Yeah.
We were caught in the drizzle that wasn't supposed to happen and the rain that wasn't supposed to happen. We were right there too. And part of that was because the times that things got pushed back from in the morning with the low cloud cover, the low ceiling, it offset things. Both mornings were pushed back because of low cloud cover. So that was disappointing to choose a nice word to say it. And yeah, on Saturday with the Thunderbirds, they did a quick little flyby and they couldn't do the whole show. So it was rough. It was tough. And then now we have a day like this where it's like, why couldn't we?
I know. Of course, their safety, though, is top priority.
Absolutely.
And, you know, if I had to guess, I would bet that they wanted to perform.
Oh, yes.
But when you're following FAA regulations, you can't. If the ceiling's too low, you just can't do it. Okay, looking ahead to this week, there are more events coming up, including the Crosstown Classic at Wrigley Field. Starts tonight. They're going to have no problem tonight.
Shouldn't have any issues tonight, no.
But how about tomorrow?
Tomorrow's a different story. Tomorrow, a little front could come through, could drop some rain on us. There could be some thunderstorms. I've seen a couple different forecast models. One a little more aggressive for tomorrow evening, roughly 4:30 p.m. to about 9 p.m. right over the Illinois-Wisconsin line, drifting down into downtown Chicago during that time frame. So could get a little bit dicey tomorrow. That's on the extreme end. There's also a possibility that maybe it's a rogue shower. It's outside of the stadium. It's not a big deal. Let's hope for that one. But with this front coming through and kind of stalling on us, that possibility is there for tomorrow.
Okay, so any folks heading out to that game tomorrow night, maybe just be mindful that things might get delayed. There might be some shifting.
Yeah, and any kind of pregame activities, postgame activities, those two may be postponed, canceled, delays. And don't be surprised if MLB just kind of pushes things back or says, hey, you know what, we'll do this a different day.
Yeah. What about the rest of the week?
So the week's, as I said, better than last week. Not perfect, but better. Already today, here's the perk of things, the dew point temperatures. These aren't as bad as what they were over the weekend. You were out at the air show. I was out at the air show. It was swampy. It was steamy.
It was.
It was soupy.
It really was.
Dew point values were around 70 to about 75 over the weekend. So today we're around 60 to 65. That's much better than where we've been. And moving ahead, these dew points aren't going to climb too high over the next few days. I think we'll see dew points kind of hanging out primarily in the 60s, give or take in most cases. Maybe 68, 69 in some regards as we go into tomorrow. Otherwise, I think the bigger story might be the chance for showers and storms that works its way in. I'm not getting the advance button to work on the old thingamabobber here to go to the next graphic. So that's okay. We'll make it work.
We'll make it work.
We'll make it work. Dew point's going to hang in the 60s overall this week, which is decent for us, not the mid to upper 70s like what we had last week. So that's a perk. We're dry mainly today. There might be a shower or two that tries to work its way in. Otherwise, the bigger story is going to be for tomorrow night with a chance for rain and thunder as that front kind of sinks into the area, and kind of moves its way into this warm and slightly muggy air for tomorrow. The thing about that, though, originally we were looking at Wednesday as being a day with showers and storms, but now this front coming in late tomorrow, that means most of Wednesday is trending dry, which is good news. Thursday, Friday also looking dry as well. So there's a couple positive aspects as opposed to last week where it seemed to be day after day of severe weather and thunderstorm chances.
Now, we talked a couple of weeks ago about the rainfall and just how much we've gotten. Where do things stand now? Are we ahead of where we typically are?
So that's a loaded question because of the coverage area that we have. If we just pick the Chicago official spot, which is done at O'Hare, we are above normal by a little bit for the month, for this point in the month. We've already seen, I think, 3.98 inches of rain. Typically, it's 4.25 for the entirety of the month. But by this point in August, we're running ahead of schedule. Now, that's just in Chicago. You go south. You go along and south of I-80, whole different ball game. I mean, over the weekend, we were showing numbers on air. 5-day totals were surpassing 10 to 12 inches.
Oh, wow.
And that's just in a 5-day span. These are the same areas that have been hit over and over and over, and that's just rainfall. So rain alone has been a problem. Intensity of the storms has been a huge problem. We had all the power outages and the damage last week from the straight line wind, the tornadoes. This has been rambunctious.
It's been so intense. And, you know, as you mentioned it, folks in Northwest Indiana, south suburbs, they've been hit again and again. And just as they start to clean up, another one comes through. You know, what do you expect? I know this is also a loaded question, but for the rest of the month, do we see things settling down on the weather front as we move into September?
Statistically speaking, things get a little bit more active into the month of September. Also, statistically speaking, we just went through a long stretch of daily storm chances. The pattern should shift this week where it's quieter. Can't rule out something being a little bit more ornery or rambunctious tomorrow. There's a level 1 risk of severe weather in play that could be upgraded, but it's not the day after day nor the night after night of storm chances. I mean, I think it was Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Each night carried a chance for strong to severe storms. Thankfully, it stayed just south of our area, but that chance was there. That is not the case this week. So it will be quieter. I know we've got the second half of August to go. Looking toward the end of the month, I think things will be quiet, but I have no wood to knock on up here.
I know there really is.
There isn't anything.
None.
Labor Day weekend is around the corner. And it's one of the things I have said for years and years and years working in this part of the country. There's almost 2 weekends you can guarantee there's going to be some kind of rain or thunderstorm. Memorial Day weekend and Labor Day weekend. It happens every single year. So
the beginning and the end of the official
of summer. So don't be surprised if there's something there in the first handful of days of September. It would fit our overall pattern. It would fit the climatology, if you will, of the area for this time of season and things like that. So don't be shocked by it, but I'm hopeful that I'm wrong. I'm hopeful nothing like this happens.
Yeah. And, you know, folks still are really trying to clean up, get their feet back under them after last Tuesday's storms. We chatted with Sergeant Glenn Fifield from the Indiana State Police, and we chatted with the village manager out in Glenwood, a suburb of Illinois. And, you know, they said it still looks like the storm happened just a couple days ago, not almost a week ago.
Yeah, I mean, it's the best way I can put it. It's like having little kids, and you clean up one mess, and there's 6 more over here. Now you go to clean up this one, and there's 8 more, and every time you turn around, it gets worse. You can't stay on top of it. These storms have been hitting over and over. I mean, the power outages alone. Portions of Lake County, Indiana, are still, I think, around 40 to 50% of the counties without power. Thousands still don't have power. How do you get things cleaned up in that situation?
If you're in the dark.
Yes.
Over 100,000 customers still without power in Northwest Indiana, and that was just at last check about 30 minutes ago. And so, if you don't even have the lights on in your home, you can imagine how difficult it is to even get yourself together to say, okay, what am I tackling today?
On top of the fact that it was storming day after day last week, it was hot, it was humid. It makes those cleanup efforts very difficult. That's why I say this week is better, not as humid, not as warm, not as stormy, so you have more opportunity to get this stuff done during those prime daylight hours if you don't have electricity. So as always, we will get there. It's a big hurdle to overcome, but we will do it, and we do it together, too, which is great to see. This past weekend, during our weekend morning edition of Chicago Live, we had some folks on who were out serving barbecue meals to those without power, those who didn't have a place to get a meal from. Community efforts like that. I know the power crews, they're getting raked over the coals. I get that. They are working 12, 14, 16-hour days. Everyone who can is trying their hardest to help where they can.
Absolutely. And during extreme weather events like this one, it is just, you know, it shows where the helpers are. And there are so many people who want to help others, whether it's your next door neighbor, whether it's a stranger down the street who you've never met before. When I was out in Munster last week, people were lending each other chainsaws and other equipment. And, you know, just to see people come together, it really is heartwarming, and you know that there are still a good majority of people out there who want to help.
Yeah, and even those who they need help themselves, they put their stuff down to go help somebody else. They'll say, you know what, mine can wait. I'll go help my neighbor. I'll go help this person. They seem to be more in need than I. Let's go help them. That's just amazing to see.
And actually happening right now, because it kicked off at 3 o'clock, just across from City Hall in Gary, Lowe's was doing a big bucket brigade giveaway. They were doing it while supplies lasted, so about 300 buckets. We're not sure where things stand. I know people were in line waiting for those, so it is possible that they've already run out. But then again, you know, the district manager that we had on said that they're going to do this again. This isn't going to be the last community that they do the bucket brigade, but it's a bucket with cleaning supplies, just to help people get started, because especially think those who have had flooding in their basements perhaps, or on their main levels, you know, you might not even be able to get to your cleaning supplies.
No, and something to keep in mind too, and this comes down the road, and this could be something you guys talk about here on this program in days to come. When you get water in a home, you have to watch out. There can be mold and things that happen behind sheetrock, in the wood, in the heart of the home that you don't see off the cusp, and you don't know it's there until weeks, months later when it becomes a health problem. And you have to be careful about those shysters out there that try to come in and try to replace things, do things that you don't need, or tell you things are okay when you do need something to be changed up. So this stuff always has lasting effects after the storm, after you start putting the pieces back together, after the lights come back on. There's still more work that has to be done. That's why this stuff is so devastating to so many families.
And you know, you bring up a great point there with, sadly, we talked about the helpers, but sadly there are people who do try to take advantage in situations like this. When I was out in Northwest Indiana last week, one of the neighbors told me, you know, and they saw through it, but they said that there were a couple of, you know, groups that came by saying, hey, we'll take a cash payment right now and we'll help you clean this up. And they said, no, you know, no, thank you. But you do need to be mindful that, you know, there are some people who, you know, may not be there for the right reasons.
They're crooks. They are crooks, and they're there to steal your money in your time of need. And it's terrible that we have people like that, but the fact of the matter is we do have people like that, and you have to be careful. You're vulnerable, you're open, you're looking for help. Oh, this person will do this. Yeah, sure, here you go. And you never see them again, nor the money you gave away.
Think twice, absolutely think twice. Trust the neighbors that are there to help you just because. JD, thank you so much.
Absolutely.
We will look forward to chatting with you again tomorrow here on Chicago Live. We'll both be back up here. Thank you so much, and stay with us. We will be right back after this quick break. Look at that. Just an absolutely gorgeous day. A lot of boats out there in the playpen, too. Perfect day for it.
Why couldn't it have been yesterday?
I know it. All right, we'll be right back. Welcome back to Chicago Live. We've got just about 15 minutes left before we turn things over to the news at 4. And our last guest is joining us from the brand new Lincoln Antique Mall. Karen Mavros, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, tell us a little bit about the Lincoln Antique Mall. Where is it? When did it open?
Absolutely. We actually opened a year ago in May. We're at 3115 West Irving Park Road in Albany Park, and we have almost 40 vendors who curate the best vintage for the Chicago market.
And today is a perfect day for you to join because it is National Thrift Shop Day. How are you celebrating? This is your day.
Yes, well, as soon as I leave here today, I will definitely be shopping a few thrift stores in the area just to see what treasures I can find. I'm a collector at home and a seller in store.
So what items can people expect to find at the Lincoln Antique Mall if they were to venture out there?
So absolutely. We have everything from vintage, decor, fine art, jewelry, true vintage clothing, like one of our beautiful tiki outfits we have back here. We've got anything from like oddities and collectibles, gifts options. I mean, we have really something for everyone.
And, you know, I've always wondered, walking into a thrift store or an antique mall, where do you begin to collect these items? One, where do you find them? And then two, the process to go through it, I'm sure, is never ending.
Yeah, I mean, our vendors source everywhere from thrift stores to estate sales, from looking up, where there might be a private buy happening or buying storage units and really digging through, sometimes in full hazmat suits just to stay clean and safe. So we really have a great collection of vendors who do what it takes to find the right items.
Tell us a little bit. You mentioned that tiki outfit behind you. What else is kind of in our view here? I see over your left shoulder a couple of, it looks like spooky season items.
Yeah, so our vendors are already bringing in some vintage Halloween. This actually was full, but after I put it up, we sold a few items. So I'm sorry that the display is a little empty. But this is actually the Narrative Mercantile booth. They have a great style of oddities and just one-of-a-kind little trinkets and boxes and glassware, lots of brass, and other items that you're not going to find anywhere else.
And, you know, thrift shopping is great year-round, but do you ever see any seasons where it picks up in particular?
Yeah, I mean, I think in the spring, definitely, because people are spring cleaning. So they're kind of cleaning out their attics or basements or different things like that. So that's a really good time to go out and source. And of course, there's so many estate sales and different markets to kind of source from as well.
How did you get your start? How did you get into this? And how long have you been doing it?
Yeah, so I started as a little kid, going to garage sales and whatnot and having my first lemonade stand and loving to sell, with the neighbors as well. So I think just loving the idea of keeping great product that is well made and has a story in rotation out there, because we truly are a disposable society right now. So with fast fashion and press board and all the big box stores you could buy from, we have this new resurgence of generations coming in and wanting to purchase things that are really well made, that are going to last another 50, 60, 70 years from move to move to move for them, but also high quality fabrics that are like natural fibers are really important too.
Absolutely. You bring up such a great point with the fast fashion. And, there are so many sites where people can just order a ton of product and they get it relatively quickly, but maybe it's not the best quality. Speak to kind of just the benefits of getting a piece that maybe is slightly more expensive, but that could last you 10 times as long.
Yeah, I mean, I think you just explained it right there. You might spend $100 on some, a piece of clothing or a sweater, or a piece of furniture, that might be a little bit higher end or out of your budget right now. But if you think about over the years, if it's going to last you 20 years, you're not replacing that item every time you move from your college apartment to your first home to your second home and so on. So it's really an investment in the future. And, people shouldn't be afraid to kind of research and ask people at the antique malls or vintage stores about the history of the items too, because a lot of times we do know a little bit, and that just adds to the specialness of the story.
And Karen, I understand, do you also have a second location, Vintiques and Company?
We do, yeah. So Vintiques and Company opened in May of this year. We're so proud of it. It is in Andersonville. It's at 5432 North Clark Street. It's a lot smaller than this store. We only have 16 vendors, but it's highly curated. Pricing is the same. So we want to have something and be affordable for everyone. And it's so fun to see, the traffic at both of our stores improve as the word gets out that we're here.
So for folks who maybe are just wanting to get into thrifting, perhaps they aren't experienced thrifters, where do you suggest people start? Whether they're looking for home decor or clothing, kitchen items, where do you suggest they begin? Because it can be a little bit daunting knowing where to start.
Absolutely. So I think just shop for what you love first, not what you think is going to be valuable or whatnot. So I wanted to kind of showcase a couple fun things if I could.
Please, absolutely.
Made of patina. So this is a brass candlestick. It's really heavy. We found this at a thrift store. And then, it has the patina, so it's a matte finish. And then here is a similar brass, just as heavy, but we polished this one. So, you can get two different looks. You can kind of get the fancy Hollywood Regency look, or you can get like a vintage vibe look.
Yes.
And people should also, turn things over and look for dates. Like this was a trinket dish. And it says it's dated 1904 on it. I don't know if you could see that or not, but it's super cool. So I imagine someone's going to get this and either use it as a catch-all by their door or throw jewelry in or whatnot, but it's got a gold rim on it, and it's in beautiful condition for being, 120-something years old.
Well, Karen, thank you so much for joining us on National Thrift Shop Day. We appreciate your time.
Thank you for having us. Have a great day.
You as well. Thank you so much. All right, we do have some breaking news we need to get out to. It seems there is an emergency response happening at O'Hare. You are looking at an American Airlines jet. It appears that there are a couple of emergency crews surrounding it, including some fire trucks. Police cars are also there. There are some flashing lights there by the stairs. It looks like there's been a staircase that has either been placed at the door of that plane, or perhaps it's an emergency staircase that has come out of the plane. It looks like perhaps it's a movable staircase that they have placed there. Unclear right now if this plane was getting ready for takeoff. It does look like it's a commercial jet. Again, an American Airlines plane at O'Hare on the tarmac here. We don't know if there are passengers right now inside this plane or if they've been taken off the plane. It looks like our Sky Fox has given us a little bit of a wider look here. Not a ton of other activity going on around it, but we presume that they have kind of closed off this area. You can actually see just toward the top of your screen there, it looks like there's another plane perhaps that was in line to take off or is waiting to move. Maybe they're on their way to a gate and they have been stopped. So again, several fire trucks. The O'Hare fire trucks are those yellow fire trucks that you're seeing there. So not only only fire engines, but also a police response there on the ground. We're just kind of waiting right now for official word on what exactly is transpiring here. And again, whether this plane had just landed, whether it was getting ready to take off, perhaps it was making its way to a gate. But right now, emergency crews on the ground there. We're going to head out to a quick break, and we will be right back to close things out. Welcome back to Chicago Live. We want to take you back out, if we still have that live Skyfox image over O'Hare. Just before we went to break, we were looking at an emergency response that is unfolding at O'Hare right now. Emergency crews have surrounded an American Airlines plane that appears to be on the runway. There was just a plane on the right side, upper right side of the screen. You can't see it right now, but it was another plane that clearly had been stopped while this emergency response was taking place. It does appear that perhaps there's a little bit of movement right now with some of those emergency vehicles, but we know there are firefighters on the ground along with police officers. Again, this is a live look right now at O'Hare, American Airlines plane that's been surrounded by law enforcement members and firefighters. Unclear right now what exactly prompted this emergency response. We are still waiting on official word from those who are there, from officials. It does appear a couple of the squad cars are leaving, so perhaps things are winding down, but you can see there's been a staircase placed at the door of that jet there. So we will continue to monitor this, and the 4 o'clock news is starting here in just a couple of minutes, so we hope you will stick around for that. Thank you for being with us here on Chicago Live. Have a great Monday.